Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the Uncanny X-Men number 221, cover dated September 1987. So no cover caption here, but we've got Havoc blasting at Wolverine, and Wolverine's claws rendered in red there, indicating perhaps maybe that he's been slashing at Havoc. It is a scene from inside the comic, and it's an interesting choice for the cover by Marc Silvestri and Dan Green, given what we learn when we open to the splash page, that this is an issue that features the first appearance of Mr. Sinister and the return of the Marauders and a fight between the X-Men and the Marauders. So kind of part of me thinks that maybe it would have been more interesting to see a depiction of a fight between the X-Men and the Marauders on this cover. Something else to note before I open to the splash page is the corner box, which features the four newest members of the team: Dazzler, Havoc, Longshot, and Psylocke. So let's open this one up, and here we go. It's the full reveal of Mr. Sinister. The first time he was seen was in Sabretooth's mind in issue 213. And here he is. And this, what we're going to see here is a Marc Silvestri design. So the character designed by Silvestri, kind of wearing like apparently, or it looks like he's wearing makeup here. He's got these fang-like teeth, the red color of the eyes. It looks like he's wearing like that his face is powdered white even. There's something about him that looks quite theatrical, dramatic, and sort of in the mold of a Silver Age villain. And all of this turns out to have been intentional. Now, Claremont, of course, infamously quit the X-Men with issue 279. I didn't get to fulfill all of his plans, but he had a origin story worked out for Mr. Sinister, and he laid the ground for that in backup stories to classic X-Men numbers 41 and 42, which featured a young mutant called Nate, who had been alive for many years, but was had never aged beyond roughly the age of 10. And Claremont's plan was that Sinister would be a manifestation of that mutant's idea of what a classic villain would look like and how they would act. So here he is, introduced to us. "You failed me, Marauders," he says, and failure is something Mr. Sinister does not tolerate. So the title of this story, Death by Drowning. The creative team here: Chris Claremont, writer as ever; Marc Silvestri, still spelled wrong his first name; and Dan Green, artist. That means Silvestri is providing breakdowns and Dan Green finishes with inks. Tom Orzechowski, letterer, and Glynis Oliver, colorist as ever. So let's move beyond this and we'll get our first full figure view of Sinister here in this anchor image. So we get to see his full costume, these kind of ribbons that are like a cloak, and the leggings and boots, and the diamond motif on his forehead and on his chest. The whole works. It's quite a cool design by Silvestri, very visually striking. And here we have him continuing to berate the Marauders, and we've got a call out for who's present in this scene: Scrambler, Arclight, Scalp Hunter, Vertigo, Sabretooth, of course here, Harpoon, and Polaris. And Polaris now possessed by Malice since issue 219. And what is he berating them for? "I forge you into one of the deadliest fighting forces the world has ever seen. I offer power beyond imagination, wealth beyond the wildest dreams of avarice, if only you serve me and do so well. Yet, when I set the simplest of tasks, the execution of this woman, Madelyne Pryor, you botch it." And we saw that in the Alan Davis illustrated Uncanny X-Men 215. And Sinister continues: "How then can I expect you to fare against such heroes as the Avengers or the Fantastic Four, or our most dangerous foes who time and again you've failed to eliminate, the X-Men?" So this ticks off Sabretooth here, and he pounces on Sinister, but Sinister easily grabs him by the throat. He says, "Miss Pryor is not only alive, she's recently regained consciousness. She's asking questions, demanding action. It does little good to obliterate every trace of her existence if the woman herself is spared." So he wants the situation resolved before it comes to any more. The woman is to be killed. Sabretooth wasn't. It didn't even require much of his attention while he was continuing to deliver his speech to the Marauders. So this is an indication of his power level and how serious a villain he is. So Scalp Hunter there, no, actually it's Polaris. Polaris, possessed by Malice, is now the Marauders' leader, and she says, "You heard the man, Treeps, let's get to it." And picks up Sabretooth. "As for you, butt brain, I hope you learned your lesson. Mess with Sinister and your history." So there you go. And now we switch to, as it turns out, well, initially we think it's some venue for Dazzler singing, but it turns out to be the Danger Room ultimately, and she's programmed it to fight so that she can fight an earlier version of Rogue. And she blasts this version of Rogue with a stroboscopic dazzle blast. And then she uses her concentrated laser blast on her. And that seems to take care of Rogue, as she thinks, "Photon blast is my big gun, ultimate expression of my light powers. Problem is, it uses the most energy. If I'm not careful, I could find myself out of juice." And this is great, the way that Claremont always kind of works in little limits on the character's powers. You know, that they're not all powerful, that there are limits to it, and that they have to be careful and prepared. But then Rogue climbs atop the stage and says, "You knocked me for a loop, now it's my turn." And so Dazzler blasts out the lights from the rigging above the stage. This covers Rogue, but who's up in the control booth? Except for the real flesh and blood Rogue, looking down on Dazzler. "You want to explain your choice of antagonist?" she asks. "You got some nerve, girl, casting me as a villain." And there has been, there has been tension between these two since Dazzler's joined the team, and it all goes back to the times they fought in the past in Dazzler's own solo series. And Rogue here saying, "Look, what do you want from me?" She says she was crazy back in those days. She didn't know what she was doing. "You know that." And she says that she's told her she's sorry. But Dazzler says, "And that makes everything hunky-dory, okay? All right? No way. It's not that easy." And Rogue says, "We can't keep on like this. Ain't good for the team." "To blazes with the team," says Dazzler. "This is personal between you and me alone." And so Rogue decides she's going to give her the fight, lump for lump, bruise for bruise, till the scales are balanced that she's looking for. But this girl fight is interrupted by Psylocke saying there's trouble, and Wolverine wants the entire team assembled to deal with the trouble. But then we have an interlude, the Grand Canyon, and this is where Naze and Ororo have gone in their search for Forge. Naze is possessed by the adversary, and he's hatching his own scheme. So we get a little explanation of what's going on and why he's interested in Forge and Storm. Both possess power, temporal and spiritual, but being human, they're flawed and therefore vulnerable. And we see this demonic grin on his face. Forge stripped Storm of her mutant power to command the winds. She swallowed her pride and returned to ask if he could restore them. We saw that last issue. And thereby unknowingly ensnared herself in my web. She's a good leader, ever thinking of others before herself. That very gift will prove her undoing. She's content as she is, yet will reassume the burden of her powers because the X-Men need that strength. By the same token, before we are done, I will so twist her to my shaping that for those same noble reasons, she will destroy her savior, her truest love. So he's prepared to use her virtue against her. And so basically they continue on their way, and Naze thinks, "You'll be forever bound to me, Storm, spirit and soul, eventually." So great colouring here. I should note that by Glynis Oliver for the mountains, for the sky here, this very delicate palette that she's capable of using. It looks really well on these pages, evoking the colours and environment of the Grand Canyon. Okay, and then we're back to the X-Men, and they have flown to San Francisco. So the last time that we saw them in San Francisco was in issue 206. So they're back now, and also in that issue, we first saw a Jane Doe, a red-headed Jane Doe, being taken to Memorial Hospital, and that is indeed where Madelyne has been. A lot of the time she's spent there in a coma, but she's awake. So Wolverine who's acting team leader, has Psylocke scan for Marauders, and she says, my telepathic scan has, well, first of all, locating Madelyne, and so she tells Wolverine, my telepathic scan has located Ms. Pryor on the 4th floor. Quite frantic too, evidently all records of her existence have disappeared. So Wolverine asks, are you sure? And Psylocke says, I can only relate what I see in her thoughts. She knows who she is, but she can't prove it. Havoc pipes up. What's this all about anyway? I mean, you drag the X-Men across the country, Wolverine, with hardly a word of explanation. Just because Storm named you leader in her absence doesn't mean we'll follow you blindly. And Wolverine grabs him by his costume and says, we're here, Havoc, because I got a call from your brother's wife, real angry, real scared, demanding to know why Cyclops dumped her and took their baby. That's crazy, Havoc says. Scott wouldn't. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. We're playing cagey cause she said she was nailed by Scalp Hunter and Arclight, and we saw that in 215, issue 215. Marauders, says Havoc. Gold star for you. So Psylocke suddenly telepathically senses the Marauders scattered near the hospital, and 2 are already inside. So Wolverine, as team leader, sends Rogue in immediately. She zooms into the hospital, catches Sabretooth, and this is great. Last time we scrapped in 213, you got the drop on me, and we saw that. But this time, she gets her punch in first and knocks him right out of the hospital. Whammo. Orzechowski's lettering there. And then she boots her way into Madelyne's hospital room just in time to stop Scalp Hunter from shooting Madelyne in the head. But she takes the bullet meant for Madelyne. This is interesting here on this issue. Oh, look, kind of a printing or an error at the printers in terms of the way this has been cut. But however, everything's visible. And let's continue. Yeah, this was a pricey back issue to buy, let me tell you, because of Mr. Sinister's first appearance. And let's see. So then we pick up with Harpoon and Vertigo, who attack the X-Men outside the hospital, attacking here Dazzler, Psylocke, and Longshot. And Vertigo also affecting Havoc and Wolverine via the side projection of Psylocke's hurt. Because they're telepathically linked. It's more than Havoc can stand. He's trying to hold his plasma blast in, but Scrambler wrecks his powers, or his control. His powers go absolutely crazy, and he catches Wolverine in his plasma blast. So that's the scene from the cover that Silvestri and Green illustrated, but minus Scalp Hunter as the reason for Havoc blasting Wolverine. So Wolverine's down from the blast. Scrambler throws Havoc through the hole this plasma blast has created in the floors of the hospital, but he catches on one of those destroyed floors before, and Scrambler basically says, when you wake, you'll probably fall over. That'll do the trick. So he walks off overconfidently, and Madelyne's up and out of her hospital bed, and she's got Scalp Hunter's gun, and she trains it on Scrambler there. Sorry, creep, I don't die easy, she says. Can you say the same? So Madelyne's got fighting spirit. And then we see Arclight using her power to set off reverberations, tremors, an earthquake-like power. That's what Madelyne shouts. Rogue realizes that it's Arclight because of her experience with her. Woman just loves to knock things down, says Rogue. This is classic Silvestri, striding long female legs shot here. Really great art in this issue as ever. She picks Wolverine up, he pops his claws, and he tells her to go to ground where they can't find you, the fight's over. But he is wondering about going after Scrambler. He can easily follow his trail, only I gotta take care of the team, look after Havoc first. So his duties as leader take precedence over what he would have done had Storm been on the scene. So Rogue carries Madelyne to safety, and there's a little bit of a chat between them there. Madelyne's baffled at what's going on. All those people endangered, some hurt, even killed because of her. But why Rogue? Rogue doesn't have a clue. Nice little background detail here. The sailboats in the bay, the construction of the skyscrapers here, the buildings here. But this is going to come into the plot now. And we will see how here when they are attacked by a barrage of these I-beams. The girders, they're climbing after us. So how could that be happening? Look at the way that Silvestri has illustrated this. Think about what he's been charged to do here. Have a tornado of I-beams catch Rogue and Madelyne. And whose doing is it? It's Polaris, possessed by Malice. And she says to the women, don't bother trying to free yourself, Rogue, darling. I've magnetically strengthened the molecular bonds of the metal to such an extent even your strength can't shatter them. Madelyne recognizes her, and so does Rogue. Lorna Dane, I don't believe this, Polaris. How could you be working with the Marauders? Silly girl, says Polaris. Malice, I lead the Marauders. And what happens at this point is that Dazzler and Psylocke wake up, and Psylocke senses Miss Pryor's thought patterns above them. She and Rogue are trapped. And so Dazzler works here, some teamwork with Longshot. Longshot, hook your grapnel to the superstructure, then pass me the line. So she thinks she's crazy, but Betsy's still too groggy to face any Marauders. She's the only one whose powers can help, assuming she lives so long. So there she goes, swinging around the girders. She's taking care. She doesn't want to swing into them even as they head for the bay. And kicks away from the superstructure as far as possible. Remembers her training, how to land. Takes a deep breath, heart jackhammering, thoughts racing, scared, gonna hit. Love the way that Claremont always rendered like racing thoughts. Still alive, far out, nothing busted. How lucky can I get? Body's going to be as black and blue as my costume, hurts all over. Water so cold. Keep hold of Longshot's line. Current so swift, if I let go, I'll never make it back here. And then she has a question mark because she sees Rogue and Madelyne trapped in the mess of girders and I-beams, and she's hoping here that they're still alive as they were thrown into the bay by Polaris. And so this is a great page where she works away on freeing Madelyne. Madelyne gets free and swims to the surface. And then she realizes the water's turned awfully murky, but it's her. Her glow's fading. Her power is reducing. Lazing underwater took more out of me than I expected. So again, this is Claremont, writing in limits for these characters. They can't just do anything they want. There are limits there. And she thinks, don't know if I have enough energy left for Rogue. She knows it too. And so, this is emotionally tense business given their conflict earlier. And Rogue here selflessly saying, go on, you did your best. You saved Madelyne, thinking it rather. That's the important thing. Now save yourself. Scoot while you're still able. No sense both of us becoming fish food. Be smart for once. Go, she says. And so Dazzler's there thinking it through. And I like this too. Claremont holding back on any thought balloons. So we just get to see Silvestri's storytelling and the expression on her face as she lets go, goes up to the surface, and then she turns back. She gets powers up a little bit. Rogue here, one last try to free herself from the girders that are wrapped around her. And then Dazzler's back using her laser to free Rogue, but the laser quits. She's lost her power, and she starts to drown. But Rogue gets free, grabs Dazzler. There they are. Teamwork pays off. Dazzler's cold as a block of ice. She smacks her in the face to wake her up. She's alive. Am I dead? She asks Rogue. Not hardly. You're a hero. I'm an X-Man, Rogue. We stick together, she says. Even after all that's between us. That's past. What counts is today and tomorrow. I didn't really accept that in my heart till now. Nice, lovely, excellent. The two girls, the two women have reconciled. But is it going to be too late for both of them? Because here's Polaris back again. How sweet, she says. Old enemies becoming dear friends. What a disgustingly charming picture. I must say, you pair are proving most delightfully difficult to kill. I suppose I'll simply have to keep trying till I get it right. So there you go. How are Rogue and Ali, who's depowered at this point, going to get out of this one? So I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Uncanny X-Men 221, the first appearance of Mr. Sinister, and the X-Men versus the Marauders for the first time since Mutant Massacre. Quite a cool issue. I hope you liked it. Please like the video on YouTube, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.